You and I met through an article I had to do, or I got to do for Gundog magazine, where I had to interview you. And I was thinking about this when I was kind of prepping for this podcast. I was like, how long has Gunner been out? Because it feels like it's been so much longer, but it's only been 4 years, huh?
Yeah, and I was trying to find our emails back and forth because I mean it's all been such a blur, and so I say we're right at 4 years. I mean, we're kind of finishing up. I think we started delivering kennels in August of 15. So kind of 3.5, almost 4-year-old company in terms of fulfilling orders and products. And we're think we're in a good spot, but I think we've got a long way to go in terms of product releases and just company growth.
Yeah, there's a lot of runway left for sure. If I remember correctly, you started your own marketing company, didn't you, right out of school? And that's how you sold it, and then you used that money to start
Yep.
this, didn't you?
Yeah. I think I started it my junior year while I was in school at Ole Miss, and once I graduated, I stuck around for about a year and a half and came up with this idea, and then decided I was going to go with it. So I sold that company and took everything I got from that and put it into starting this one.
When I hear stories like that, I'm insanely jealous because I didn't figure out what the hell I was going to do with my life until later than you did, for sure. But I'm always impressed by people who just go the entrepreneur route, who just decide, I could go work for somebody, but I want to do something on my own. And that's one message with not only with this Sporting Dog podcast, but the other one I host called Hunt for Real. We try to get across a lot is there are opportunities out there where you can do stuff like that. Most people wouldn't even consider starting a business in college. I mean, most people can't handle, day-to-day life in college, let alone launching a business, but you did it. And I always wonder about somebody's personal situation like that, where did you, was your dad, did he have the entrepreneurial spirit? Where did that come from?
Yeah. My dad started a financial planning company 30 something years ago, and just always watching him, being able to make our sporting events or being able to take a family trip, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be like him and start my own company. So, I think when I started that advertising company, I started it with $2,000, and I just thought, hey, I want to stick around Oxford and hunt and fish some more. I'm not ready to leave here, and so I need to be able to support myself when I graduate. So, took a lot of lessons from that, but it wasn't anything near my passion. And so I found, I hated selling advertisements. I hated a lot of different parts about that business that I set up, but I made it successful, and it kind of let me see, okay, you can start your own company, but it's a lot. I would think that at the time, it's a lot more fun if you do it surrounded around your passions.
Mm-hmm.
So dogs and hunting kind of always been my two passions. So I think I was able to see like the benefit of starting your own company, but then also wanted something more, and that it was 100% my focus because my passions were surrounded around that, even though I didn't realize at the time my hunting and fishing would go significantly down in terms of days of the field.
Isn't that the dirty little secret? When you start a job or you start a company in this industry, you think, I'm going to hunt and fish all the time. And right. It does not go that way. Despite what you can portray on Instagram or anything like that, there's an awful lot of days in the office. It looks like when you check out the market, it looks like you guys are just absolutely killing it out there.
Yeah. I mean, the growth is really fast paced. It's kind of always been like that. I think it's finally starting to pick up where the numbers are just bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're constantly trying to plan out for the next, couple of years. And anytime we project we're going to need so-and-so new worker or employee, we end up needing them 3 or 4 months before what we thought. And so the growth's good. We're right now we're just dog kennels and accessories, and we've got a lot of new products outside of just the kennel world that we're working on releasing. So to me, I just can't get there fast enough of having all of my ideas and plans and drawings and stuff actually out in the field being used, because, I think that we've done a decent job at making the best kennel, but now it's time to make the best of everything else that we use for Gunner.
are you the one that's designing the products? Are you drawing them up I mean, you're conceptualizing, drawing them up, the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean the drawing part, unless it's like a stick figure, I'm not I'm not going to be that. But I'm working with the engineers and overall, even sourcing and stuff. I mean that's been. I don't have an engineering background, but I really like. I've always looked at stuff and go, okay, how could I make that better? And take what you don't like about it. And so I'm in charge of that operation.
Are the engineers you work with, are they as boring as my engineer buddies?
I don't think a lot of them don't get me and my humor. I'm always cracking up, and that, like, I won't hear anything on the other end. It's like, guys, lighten up,
Oh man, I get I get a fair amount of hate mail because I talk and write about engineers a lot. Because one of my really good friends is a composite engineer, and the thing that excites him the most in life is like cool shrubs and fruit trees and stuff. And he's so freaking boring sometimes. So I'm always just curious because his mind is so different than my mind. And, he's just a little bit dry, but I'm just curious about that, how you work with those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've worked with a lot of different engineers and different types of engineers. And, to design the first kennel took like almost a year and a half because I didn't know what I wanted it to look like or anything. I just knew what the features I wanted. But what's cool is I'm always able to bring something to the table. Anytime we have a couple engineers looking at an issue or a problem, I think having that not engineering background, I'm able to bring stuff to the table that they wouldn't consider. And sometimes it works out. But no, I wish I would have paid more attention and maybe done something in engineering in college just to be a little bit further ahead on that.
Well, you're only 32 years old, man. Stay off your wife for a little bit and go back to school.
Yeah.
Stop making babies. That's what I say.
Yeah.
So if, for our readers, or for our listeners, I probably should have said this. The cornerstone of Gunner Kennels is that you kind of looked at this and said, I want the safest transport system possible. Like you were looking at the market, right? And you kind of said, there's got to be a better way to keep my dog safe when I'm going from point A to point B in my truck.
Yeah. And really, I want the best. I want the absolute best dog kennel for my uses. And the first part of the best to me is the safest. So I knew that it had to be safe. And that was the biggest emphasis. But I just always, even like when I was coming up with the idea, and there may be a couple of people that would argue this because we have a lot of different customer service deals. I remember saying I want to have the best customer service. I don't want to do just the best kennel. I want to be the best at everything we can possibly be in this company. And so, the cool thing is that how it lined up, we've kind of built a name for ourselves for being safe. And we've kind of pivoted our mission, what was originally, make the best kennel in the world, to make the best dog products for all different types of dog owners, but just to increase that time that you can spend with your dog, increase the longevity of the dog's life. So all of our new products that we're working on will have kind of a safety theme to it. I mean, everything is going to be better, but it's all for, the longevity of that relationship with your dog.
Are you guys seeing, because when I think of your products, I think about it from a hunting dog owner's perspective. And that's the lens I kind of view it through mostly. Are you seeing adoption throughout just the general pet market now? Pretty good.
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah. We started trying to figure out the best way to, capture a glimpse of who our customers are. And, that sporting dog owner, that's definitely kind of our core. That's what our brand is. But, at the end of the day, a lot of those dogs are just weekend warriors like ourselves. I mean, they're only hunting during duck season or just, from dove to the end of goose. But so the family dog, just the general family pet, is a big market. Then you've got the show dog and agility dog world that I think that we've got a small presence in, but we haven't really gone after that market yet. It's just kind of a slow word of mouth type deal. But the military and police dogs, they're starting to be a bigger segment of our customer because, these dogs are up to $70,000 a piece and they're being transported in $60 wire crates. And so we've made a pretty good splash in that world without really I think we do our first official working dog show in August in Chicago. So, I mean, it's cool to kind of get into that world. And what I enjoy is seeing the different training techniques for a working dog versus a hunting dog, because it's kind of all the same theories that kind of based on, the dog's natural instincts, but it's cool to see how they can get their dog to do one thing that they need, like say protect, a wealthy family or I mean, more on the military and police side, if you're in a scuffle with somebody, you need your dog and you can release it to come and help you out.
That stuff is fascinating to me too. And I think it's so, you mentioned it's kind of, training a dog to hunt ducks versus training a dog to sniff, for explosive or something. It sounds way different, but sometimes it's not. I mean, they're pretty parallel thinking a lot of times. And really what it boils down to is getting a dog, a working dog, giving them like a purpose-driven life. I mean, I think they're just like us. Like, I think they thrive on having jobs and having work. And, it doesn't matter if it's kicking up pheasants or if it's catching bad guys. Like, they just want to do something. And if they're good and they're trained well, like those dogs you're talking about, they just want to do that with you. Like their handler, they just want to work as that team and they want to get out there and do their thing. And yeah. I think that market, we're seeing so much crossover in training and some products with the police canine world and our hunting world now. And it totally makes sense that you guys would be picking up that market with the, not only the level they go through to just get those dogs, heading over to Europe and picking them out, but like you said, the amount of training that's going into them, to get them started at a year or 2 years old, or to get them where they need to be there, that is an investment that you want to protect.
Yeah. And I mean, we visited with the NYPD last week and stopped by and got to see kind of how they're training their dogs to sniff out drugs and stuff. And it's the same. I mean, it's with the tennis ball. I mean, it's how I taught Gunner. I don't know if you can see. I might unplug my computer.
Just zonked on the floor there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's all how I trained Gunner. It's just if he did something I wanted, I give him a tennis ball retrieve. And so when you boil it down like that, I mean, it's relatively much easier to kind of get in that dog's head when you see what they want and how to kind of bring stuff out of them.
Well, that's the key, right? It's getting what you want and what they want to jive. And if you guys have the same goal, if you and your dog have the same goal, that's it's not easy. It takes a lot of time, but you can get there with a dog like that.
Right.
And that's, people will hear you say, a $70,000 police dog. And that's like a number around a dog that most people can't even fathom. But if you think about, even if you train a dog yourself, so let's say you pay up for a good bloodline and, you spend $1,500 on your lab puppy or your Chessie or whatever you got for duck hunting or however you want to frame that. So that's your initial investment. You're going to feed that sucker. You're going to devote a ton of time to training it. If you're not sending it out somewhere, and how much is your time worth? And so like to think about a dog in terms of dollars, as far as like a police canine, it's kind of easy to understand that. For us, we don't look at it the same way, but really our investment, even if it's not as much money, is time. And like just to protect that investment with safety gear is so important, and it's kind of overlooked with a lot of people because I just don't think they see that number. Like if you could see exactly what your dog was worth financially, probably
right.
be a hell of a lot easier to spring for a good crate, huh?
Right. Yeah, that's right. There's, I think there was a study. It's like 90 million people have dogs in the U.S. and 85% of them travel with their dogs. And out of that 85%, I think only 15% of those people use any type of crate or restraint for the dog. So that's something that's over like 64 million dogs in the U.S. are not being, well protected or restrained when traveling. So there's a lot of education that goes into that. And I'm never the one to say you should do this with your dog. I mean, people come up to me at a trade show and go, oh, well, my dog's more important than putting in a kennel. He rides in the front seat with me. And it's like, okay, buddy, go on. Well, I mean, I don't have anything to say, but really that's very, very dangerous, for you being a distracted driver, for any passengers where the dog's going to hit a passenger or go through the window. And I mean, it's the situations are endless. And so I think it is cool that we've had a couple dozen people call us and say, hey, without your kennel, my dog would be dead. I was in a bad accident and, the dog turned out fine. And so I knew, I was told, because we did a lot of crash testing, I was told like, yeah, you're going to get about one customer a year that's going to call and say, I got in a wreck and your kennel helped. But I mean, lately it feels like every other week somebody will call us, and we've got a lot of stories that we haven't even released yet about that. But it's, that was the overall kind of the coolest thing so far, that we've actually saved dogs' lives, because I don't think I started it going, I'm here to save, tons of dogs' lives. I just want to make the best kennel. So
Yep.
Really kind of cool deal.
Well, it's an education thing, right? Like you mentioned earlier, if you look back into like the 50s and 60s, how we transported babies, like now, you go show your wife how they used to transport newborns, her head will explode. And we've gotten to the point where we're, thousands of times safer with our children. And now we're getting there with dogs, where we're starting to understand, like, and this is probably coming from, the place of the dog not that long ago kind of being the outdoor pet, not the family member that they've become now. And so this is probably a trend that's catching up to that trend, which is our dogs are family members now. They just are. And now, if you're going to put your kid in a car seat or some kind of restraint where they're not going to get thrown around in a car wreck, why wouldn't you do that for your dog?
Right. Yeah. And I think that I grew up, 2 chocolate labs, slept at the garage. All their old Roy went into a garbage can. But I mean, now it's, they have food containers and very expensive dog food. And I haven't even questioned it. I'm not like, wait a minute, this dog's sleeping inside every once in a while. That's just assumed that it's allowed to do that. And, I think that what the millennials are getting to be some of the biggest spenders in the whole pet product space, which makes sense, because it's I don't know if it's called humanization of animals or what, but people are just spending more attention and time and money on their pets.
Well, there's probably a lot of things going into that, right? But one of the things is just, not only are we changing how we look at our pets and how they are changing in our lives, but we just have products available that weren't available before. You mentioned that wire kennel. When I got my first dog out of college, my first hunting dog, that's what we had, that collapsible, wire kennel that eventually my dog just absolutely destroyed, chewed through. I mean, it was like one step above worthless. And that really, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't that long ago. And now you look at the crate market and it's like, holy cow, the options are so much better.
Right.
I'm sure even back then there were better options than I had, but it's just changing in the market. Like what you've done with your company, it just adapts to what the consumers want. And I think that's awesome. I think it's great to get the education out there that you can protect your dog. And now you have the opportunities to go out to Cabela's or wherever and buy something that will potentially save your dog's life.
Right.
So that's pretty neat, man. So I know, I think most people who are familiar with your company know that Gunner Kennels came from Gunner, the dog you just showed us zonked out on the floor there. But Gunner's getting up there in age, isn't he?
Yeah, he's about to be 11.
And are we puppy shopping yet, or what's going on there?
No, so he's always been aggressive. Not always, but in the last 5 years, he's aggressive with other male dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I had to put down a female, that golden doodle that my wife had got before we got married, but last year. And Gunner was, you can tell, I don't know if dogs get depressed, but like he was pretty bummed out, and kind of still is. And I had bred Gunner and got one of the puppies. It was a male, because I wanted to keep this bloodline. And he's pretty much been at school for, I think we had our second kid right when the puppy was ready. And so I sent him off to school, and he was there for a long time. I got him back last September for dove season, and Gunner and him hunted great. Like, they had never fought each other, but I think that as Bullet, that was the dog's name, or is the dog's name. He's not dead or anything. As he got a little bit older, he started kind of going after Gunner, and they just started fighting, and I couldn't break him of it. And I couldn't risk, one of them accidentally biting one of my kids or something, if they were in a fight or something. So we sent him, actually, the dog's mother is my wife's best friend, was her dog. And that dog got hit by a car right at the time that I was like, we got to do something with Bullet. And so we just sent him over with her family. And so he's off in a farm. He's able to hunt a bunch in Mississippi right now. But I'm, after kind of seeing that, and I don't know why, because I've had female dogs before, but I've always just I just love that kind of headstrong, attitude. And so my plan is, not look for a puppy anytime soon. I got him on this medicine called Adequan 2 years ago, I think. And it's literally knocked off a couple years of age. I think when he was like 8, I was thinking I was going to have to retire him then. Mm-hmm. And since then, I started him on this medicine. It's like a shot I give him every 20 days. And he's in the best shape of his life, number one. I think the food that I've got him on is really good. But, he's always been 65 pounds on the dot his whole life. And then for the last 2 years, he's been right around 75 pounds. Just had a little bit extra that I couldn't get off of, and I was okay with it going into hunting season. But, he's 61 on the dot now. And I take him walking or running or keeps up with me on the golf cart, significant amount. But I think we've got at least another season in him, and kind of just play it by ear and not in a huge rush to go puppy shopping anytime soon.